Good morning. Good morning to everyone. I love these morning get-togethers after I guess we didn't split up till this morning also. So these same-day events, but what a great crowd, and thank you for being here. I'd like to, first of all, recognize our president, Mayor Michael Nutter of Philadelphia. Mayor Nutter, thank you for being here this morning. That was quite a nice get-together that the council staff put on and that you were so gracious to be at last night. I'm Mayor Scott Smith, Mayor of Mesa, Vice President of the Conference of Mayors, and the chair of this business council, Mayor Bob Foster of Long Beach, unfortunately, was a little bit under the weather, so he didn't make the long trip out from Long Beach. So he asked me if I would preside over this, or not preside, because the president's here, conduct this session. We've got to check these scripts before we get going in. I mean, really, you know. I want to first begin by thanking the sponsors of today's breakfast, Visa Inc., and how appropriate, Starbucks Coffee Company. Please give them a round of, oh wait, I already did that. We celebrate Starbucks every morning, don't we? Let me now introduce Kim Winston, Senior Manager, Government and Civic Affairs for Starbucks Coffee. Kim is a longtime Business Council member and immediate past co-chair of the Mayor's Business Council Steering Committee. Kim.
Hey, I can't have somebody else up here. Good morning, Mayor Nutter, Mayor Smith, honorable mayors, and distinguished guests. I'm proud to bring greetings on behalf of Starbucks Coffee Company. Blair Taylor, our recently appointed Chief Community Officer, extends his sincere regrets for not being able to address you this morning. Starbucks is proud to be a co-sponsor of this breakfast. We are excited to continue our partnership with U.S. Conference of Mayors and support the tremendous work you do for our nation's cities. 2012 was a busy year for Starbucks. We made significant investments in what I will call the 3 C's: cups, community, and commerce. And I want to start with the cups because this is important. A couple of weeks ago, Starbucks introduced a reusable cup, featured here, that retails for $1. The new cups are an example of the way Starbucks is working with communities in the industry to reduce solid waste and encourage reuse with our customers. A recent study sponsored by the independent research firm YouGov Omnibus indicates that 25% of Americans have purchased or plan to purchase one of our new tumblers. We hope that Starbucks leadership establishes a positive trend that will be replicated by others in the industry to help communities mitigate waste and change consumer behavior. In the area of community remains at the core of Starbucks' mission and purpose, and in 2011, we commemorated our 40th anniversary through what we now call the Starbucks Global Month of Service. 2013 marks our 3rd year of dedication to this effort and demonstrates the company's appreciation for the communities we serve globally. Last year, our Global Month of Service activities generated over 230,000 hours of community service in 34 countries, resulting in over 2,100 community service projects and engaged over 1,100 nonprofit organizations. Working with our customers and community, the Global Month of Service contributed more than 700,000 unique acts that make a difference in cities and towns across the globe. And I see my mayor, both of my mayors actually, Mayor Kwan and Mayor Lee, we worked with Mayor Lee with the DPW and hosted the largest one-day volunteer event in San Francisco. So thank you, Mayor Lee, for being our host on that. We are excited about the 2013 Global Month of Service activities that commence in April. And we look forward to working with mayors, community leaders, nonprofits, Starbucks partners, and other customers to drive and sustain change at the local level. In the area of commerce, we're fortunate at Starbucks to bear witness to the power of free enterprise in America. And in in 1971, we were a single coffee, tea, and spice shop at Pike's Place Market in Seattle. Today, Starbucks is privileged to have over 17,000 locations across the globe in over 60 countries. We have and always will be a company that is committed to using our scale for good. In 2011, we launched Create Jobs for USA, a national effort to help create and sustain jobs across the country, in conjunction with Opportunity Finance Network. Create Jobs has generated millions of dollars in donations through the sale of wristbands and other collateral in our stores, and created and sustained nearly 5,000 jobs. This past November, Starbucks acquired a company called Teavana, a world-class tea authority featuring hand-blended teas. We believe that our combined expertise will transform the tea experience for our customers in the same manner Starbucks elevated the coffee and espresso experience 3 decades ago. Teavana has over 300 stores around the country, and we are proud to add this leading brand to our portfolio. The acquisition of Teavana has vaulted Starbucks into a leadership position of the world's second largest beverage category, that being tea. And in addition, the acquisition enables Starbucks to extend an array of important benefits to our partners, our employees, and more communities across America. In addition to the Teavana acquisition, Starbucks is expanding our new Evolution Fresh concept to communities. Evolution Fresh offers pure juices and natural foods that provide new ways for our customers to experience nutritional foods and promote a healthy lifestyle. Evolution Fresh stores are now located in select markets, and the fresh juices are featured in Starbucks stores nationwide. So in closing, as you can see, Starbucks remains deeply committed to innovation, job creation, and community service. We look forward to our continued partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we thank you, the nation's mayors, for your tireless leadership and commitment to public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. You know, the U.S. Conference of Mayors staff does a good job of negotiating very detailed sponsorship agreements. While you were speaking, Kim, we were reviewing that agreement. In it, I did not see any clause that allowed crass product placement. However, since I am conducting, we can rectify this oversight on your part with a nice gift card placed right next to Mayor Nutter. And I'm not even a coffee drinker, but a caramel hot chocolate is good in the morning. I would now like to introduce Tom Cochran, our CEO and Executive Director of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, to come up and say a few remarks.
I don't know about caramel hot chocolate. Thank you, Mayor Smith. I want to welcome all of you here to this breakfast and thank our business partners. Since we had the meltdown in 2008, it's what's been happening in our cities that are bringing us back. It's what mayors do with small business and large business every day. And when it's all over, there should be some notation of when Washington was not doing anything, mayors were working in the metro areas and small towns and with the private sector to bring this country back. So I want to thank all of you for working with mayors at the local level, and also to thank the Business Council for what they do to support the Conference of Mayors and our members. We will look forward to a continuing relationship, and I'd like to recognize 14 new Business Council members and ask you to stand if present. Carton Council, CityLum US Inc., CityScan Inc., Duke Energy, BedCap Rehabilitation Services, Google, IntelliStreets, Mars Incorporated, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, Pfizer Inc., U.S. Green Building Council, Wallace Baha'i Development Partners, Weight Watchers International, and Yelp. And now I'd like to thank the Platinum Partners. And when we say Platinum, I think everybody understands what that means. It means a little bit more. So let's give them a stronger applause, if you don't mind, after I read their names, okay? American Management Services, Colonial Life, DuPont, Great West, Lineberger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson, Phillips Electronics, North America, Purdue Pharma, the Scotts Miracle Grow Company, U.S. Communities, Walmart, Waste Management, Weight Watchers International, and Wells Fargo. Today's Business Council has over 114 businesses, companies that cut across all sectors. 28 companies have supported the Business Council for more than 10 years. These companies are noted on the Business Council membership cards that are at your table. Thank you for your long-standing report. Thank all the Business Council members that have chosen to be active with us. We look forward to working with you, and I'd like to thank the Steering Committee, which is a group on the Business Council that helps me and Jerry, Judith, and the staff with our relationships. I'd like to ask you to stand to be recognized. Donovan Pepper, Walgreen Company, Margaret Harper, Parsons Corporation, Clint Robinson, Black & Veatch, Doug Palmer, you remember him? Is he here? Yeah. Doug Palmer, Ackerman Urban Strategies, Jeanette Pruitt Zing, Eunice Corporation, Peter Villegas, J.P. Morgan, Donna Stachio, American Airlines, Nancy Bucos, Sodexo, co-chairs David Cobb, HDR, Tom Phillips, Siemens, and immediate past co-chair Kim Weston. Before I turn the program back over to Mayor Smith, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, I'd just like to say something very special about the Governor Malloy, who's here. It's appropriate that he's here at this Business Council because, Governor, you did so much to help us when you were working with us with the Business Council, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers have been with you for what you've been through, and it's so good to see you back with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And I'd like to echo that. I think mayors understand that our meetings are at a different level than many other meetings, and our ongoing involvement and what we can accomplish in our cities at a different level. And this is due in large part to the cooperation and the partnership we have with the business community. I think one thing we found out is that great cities need great economies, and great economies need successful businesses. And it's one thing, as I explained to people, that what have we learned through this recession? I know we've been reminded and so very graphically how our city stumbles when business stumbles. So I appreciate the partnership we have with the business community. I'd now like to introduce our steering committee co-chairs and have them make a few brief remarks. I do want to say these two companies reflect why the partnership between mayors and our business council is so important. My city, the city of Mesa, enjoys a great relationship with both of these and with many of you as we work day to day. It's not only been strengthened by our interactions here at the conference, many of the relationships that I've made have been made here through my participation in the conference, which has worked out as we've done things relationships that had nothing to do with here, but they were strengthened because of the relationships I made here. So the first is HDR's Vice President, David Cobb. HDR has been a great partner with the City of Mesa on several transit and infrastructure projects, and I am very appreciative for their support of the conference. David?
Thank you very much, Mayor Smith. It's always such an honor to be here at the Business Council Breakfast. And I'd like to take a moment and introduce my colleagues at HDR, Pat Malone, David Vizzolo, Daphne Federling, Lori Ventry, Kim Schultz, and Jeannie Renee Malone. And I know that they join me and all 7,800 employee owners of HDR, and we are architects, engineers, scientists, and community planners. And every day we work across this country with you to help develop projects and programs that allow our communities to prosper and grow. And we really want to say, on behalf of HDR, thank you for your sacrifice, thank you for your work, thank you for doing things that matter in our communities and our cities. It's so important, the work that you do every day. So again, on behalf of HDR, on behalf of the 7,800 employee owners, we thank you for your service.
Thank you, David. Next, please welcome Tom Phillips, Director of State and Local Government Affairs at the Siemens Corporation. Like many of you, I value my city's relationship with Siemens in a variety of areas. They seem to be everywhere, especially communications, sustainability, and other transportation and others. David? Or Tom? Sorry about that. David was just here. Now it's Tom. Tom.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate everybody showing up today, especially after the late night event. Believe me, I can tell who was out late last night just by looking at you. When it comes to Siemens, I can only think of one line I've used before, and it's that if we don't make it or integrate it or provide a solution for it, you probably don't need it. So that's what I'll say about Siemens. Since I'm the new co-chair here, I think Tom said I had about 20 minutes or something to talk about. Just kidding. I will say to you what Henry VIII said to his wives, my time with you will be brief. Just want to say a couple things. We know you have challenges, and there is help here. As Tom said, your business council is 100-plus members strong, everything from large companies like mine to smaller companies that focus on specific topics, and we are here to help you. We're here because we know that business gets it, and we're here to learn better so we can do things better for you using our technology and innovation. One of the two points I'll make, and then I'll leave. One is one of the things we really appreciate about these conferences is we get the chance for involvement, and we think involvement is the key to learning. I found a little quote from a poet, British poet John Jay. He says, "Tell me, I forget. Show me, and I remember. Involve me, and I understand." I think that's pretty important. And the other thing I would leave with you is I think we all leave this conference as winners because we all learn things here that we can take back with us that help us do our jobs better. I look forward to serving as the co-chair. I hope you have a great rest of the conference and the rest of your stay here in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. You know you've hit it when Tom starts quoting poetry at breakfast. I would tell you the poetry I know, but it begins with, "There once was a man in Nantucket that..." Forget it. Would like to thank both of you for your leadership and service on the Mayor's Business Council Steering Committee. I really look forward to working with you as we, and other members of the Steering Committee as we move forward in the future. Now, before we begin the Excellence in Public-Private Partnerships Awards program, I would like to thank all the Business Council members and repeat what we said before about a commitment between developing new partnerships with cities, promoting innovation, which is fundamental to the success of the Business Council and the conference. We were talking, and Mayor Greg Ballard will be up here earlier, about innovation in cities and how cities truly are innovators and the leaders in innovation. But of course, this innovation does not happen without our relationship with the private sector. Working both together in these public-private partnerships creates great success in cities across the nation. Today's awards recognize successful and outstanding relationship between cities and business. Let's begin with the Outstanding Achievement Awards. Our first award goes to the Veolia Water North America and the City of Gresham, Oregon, for their Achieving a Green Vision for Energy Independence project. Gresham had an ambitious goal. It wanted the wastewater plant to produce more energy than it consumed. Somehow we're violating some law of physics there, but I don't know what it is. The city partnered with Veolia Water, which had the relevant experience and technical expertise, and which knew how to successfully manage plant operations to reduce energy usage. Veolia Water has surpassed Gresham's goals. Electricity costs at the facility have been reduced by an average of $23,100 a month. More than 70% of the facility's energy is generated on site from the sun through the installation of solar panels and a naturally produced methane gas. Working with the city, Veolia Water has reduced the average monthly energy use from 556,000 kilowatt hours per month to 452,000 per month, an approximate 20% reduction in energy use, becoming completely sustainable and expecting to eventually generate and capture more power than it needs, so it can actually become a sustainable energy provider as well. Accepting the award on our Grisham's Government Relations Manager, Ronald Papsdorf, and David Gaddis, Executive Vice President of Veolia Water. Scoot over here. Tom, there we go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Our next Outstanding Achievement Award goes to Recycle Bank and the City of Philadelphia for their Philadelphia Recycling Rewards project. When Mayor Nutter took office in 2008, Philadelphia's recycling rate was less than 8%. To reach his goal to make Philadelphia the greenest city in America by 2015, how is it that every city has the goal to be the greenest city in America? Everyone has it. That's great, though. I like that. To reach that goal, the mayor launched GreenWorks Philadelphia, the city's comprehensive sustainability plan, which includes a target of diverting 70% of solid waste from their landfill. When the plan was released, only 53% of solid waste was being diverted. By partnering with Recycle Bank to create Philadelphia Recycle Rewards, the city government saw the potential to engage residents and raise the recycling rate. The city collected 45,000 tons of recyclables in fiscal year 2007 and collected 118,500 tons in fiscal year 2012. Residents who sign up for Recycle Bank earn rewards points for each week they recycle, which are redeemed for offers and discounts at local businesses, restaurants, and cultural institutions. More than 185,000 households are signed up for Recycle Bank, with reward points totaling about $217 million. This partnership has an economic impact as well. According to the EPA, recycling creates about 10 times more jobs on a per-ton level than regular disposal and creates a chain of economic activity that can result in business expansion, jobs, and community growth across all of Philadelphia. Accepting the reward are Mayor Michael Nutter and Philip Breesy, Recycling Coordinator for the City of Philadelphia, and Erica Diamond, Vice President of Community Solutions for Recycle Bank. The great thing about those two rewards is that they will be returned, shredded up, and melted down to make next year's awards. That was too easy, I'm sorry. And now for our Award of Excellence. This Award of Excellence goes to City Community Development and the City of San Francisco for their Kindergarten to College project. In 2012, San Francisco Mayor Edwin Lee and the Board of Supervisors approved funding in the city's budget to expand a 2-year pilot into a universal program called Kindergarten to College, or K2C, providing savings accounts for every child entering kindergarten. Launched in 2010, this initiative is the nation's first universal college savings account program and is designed to create a savings culture among San Francisco's children as a driver to expand college access. Every child entering kindergarten in the San Francisco Unified School District is automatically given a college savings account at Citibank. The account initially contains $50 from the city and county of San Francisco and an additional $50 to students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Once the student has an account, the program provides opportunities for match savings and incentives and encouragement for families to increase their savings. For example, this program offers a 1-to-1 match for the first $100 saved by a family and an additional Save Steady bonus of $100 for families that make 6 consecutive monthly deposits of $10 or more. More than 3,300 accounts are now open, and this fall, every child entering kindergarten in the San Francisco Unified School District will automatically start their academic career with a college savings account in his or her name. Accepting the award are San Francisco Mayor Ed Lee and Bob Anible. I know I butchered that. Close enough? Okay, good. If that wasn't your name before, it is now, okay? See, that's why I chose Smith. Easy to do. Global Director of City Microfinance and Community Development, Mayor Lee and Bob. Tom, you want to move over just a bit?
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
We're looking from behind you.
Thank you. Was that good, City Treasurer?
Yes.
Also up here was Jose Cisneros, City Treasurer for the City of San Francisco. Thank you. Please, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. I just wanted to say again, thank you for the partnership with the Mayor's Business Council, Bob Anibali from Citibank, and Jose Cisneros, our treasurer, and our Unified School District, all working together. And today, we have 8,000 accounts, $180,000 in people's savings. And, you know, as our kids grow up, they quickly realize that our local government is recognizing them as the greatest assets that we can possibly have. So thank you very much for this recognition. Appreciate it.
I'm always amazed when I come here and see what other cities are doing. I go home with mixed feelings because I'm energized with new ideas, and I'm jealous that I didn't think of most of those first. So thank you to the mayors in business for coming up with some pretty incredible and creative things. We will present one final award later in this program. I want to thank everyone for submitting great partnerships, and I encourage all of you to continue your commitment to working with mayors to strengthen our cities and build a stronger economy for America. Thank you, and congratulations to all our winners. Let's hear it once again for the winners. And now to our next speaker. Last year, Mayor Nutter established a new advanced manufacturing task force. As a conference, we strongly believe that advanced manufacturing can and will help American cities create new, well-paying jobs that strengthen our metro economies. Charlotte Mayor Anthony Fox is the chair of this new task force, which held its first meeting yesterday. I'd now like to ask Mayor Fox to briefly report on the work of the task force and how mayors can help engage in this important effort. Mayor Fox.
Good morning and welcome. I want to thank all of our partners, particularly the Business Council and our corporate sponsors for this. It's a wonderful, wonderful partnership between cities and mayors. Yesterday, the Advanced Manufacturing Task Force had its very first meeting. And I want to tell you, it was full. Outside the door, full. Because mayors in the United States understand that for us as a country to create jobs in this century, we must see the growth of manufacturing activity, and we can do it. I want to thank Mayor Nutter, our president, for having the foresight to create this task force and for investing in me, his faith in leading it. And I want to invite all members of the U.S. Conference of Mayors to join our task force. Kathy Wiggins and Megan Caitliffe are here. They can take your names down and have you be part of our next conversation. Now, for those of you who don't know what advanced manufacturing is, it is roughly the transfer of science and technology into manufacturing product and processes, enhancing them to create even more efficiency and more productivity. This can incorporate computer science, robotics, or highly processed chemicals. And in addition to our industries, advanced manufacturing is critical to our metro economies. We are actually starting to see a resurgence of manufacturing activity in our country. And as our ability to compete on price as it relates to energy, our highly skilled workforce becomes even stronger because of the great workforce development work we're doing. Our country is poised for a huge resurgence, and the challenge for mayors is to capture the opportunity. Yesterday, we heard from 4 great speakers. Secretary of Labor Hilda Solis, Acting Secretary of Commerce Rebecca Blank, CEO of Siemens Eric Spiegel, and a representative from Senator Sherrod Brown's office. Each of them gave messages to these mayors that I think will live on with this conference. Secretary Solis talked about partnerships in workforce development that the Department of Labor is working with cities, working with the Department of Commerce to create a workforce that will be highly skilled and prepared for these jobs. Advanced manufacturing jobs, as we were told yesterday, sometimes generate twice the salary of the older manufacturing jobs. So it's a huge opportunity for our workforce. Secretary Blank talked about the need for cities and regions to work together on strategic planning to prepare for these opportunities. In some parts of the country, automotive technology is a huge opportunity. In other parts, it's energy. Wherever you're from, there are opportunities to seize on this, and the Department of Commerce is building tools to help regions capitalize on these opportunities, and we learned about some of those partnerships yesterday. Eric Spiegel from Siemens talked about how his company, which is based in Germany, is managing to look at all of these different economies across the world and starting to pick the United States as a place to base more of its facilities. And he talked about why that was. And again, these issues of cost, of the rule of law, and the certainty of our economic system. Those are things that give this country a competitive advantage, but again, it is up to us to seize on the opportunity. And so, folks, I want to say to you, as the chair of this task force, that we have an opportunity today that we must seize on. We must, as mayors, continue working to create the opportunities for our people, and we can do it in advanced manufacturing. So, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you so much. We're going to continue our work in this task force in June. We're going to continue to raise issues with this conference as it relates to legislation that will help advanced manufacturing move forward. And we're going to continue helping mayors build the tools to seize on these opportunities in their own communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Fox. I'm now very pleased to welcome back our good friend, Dan Malloy, Governor of Connecticut. Governor Malloy was previously the mayor of Stamford for a record 14 years and was a trustee of the Conference of Mayors. As governor, Dan Malloy has made business growth and education reform priorities for his administration. Recently, we all watched in horror as the tragedy of Newtown and Sandy Hook Elementary School unfolded and 26 innocent lives were taken from us. It is the kind of tragedy that can scar a city, a state, and indeed the nation forever. During such a tragedy, compassionate, intelligent leadership is needed to hold a community together and provide hope that things will somehow get better. Governor Malloy provided exactly that kind of leadership, one which, as mayors, we fully understood and expected, and we believed he helped hone these skills through his leadership of the city of Stamford. We'd now like to welcome our good friend, Dan Malloy. Governor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you very much. It's indeed a high honor and privilege to be with so many mayors and so many friends of mayors. I really appreciate the opportunity to come home again. It's been a couple of years since I last spoke to this august organization, and I can assure you I'm very proud to be back. I want to thank our sponsors for the breakfast, Starbucks, a wonderful company doing some amazing work, and very much appreciate their support of this organization and their hard work, including their new dollar cup. I like that. I'm going to touch on 2 points, and in many ways, both points relate to children. While I was serving as a leader in the Conference of Mayors I had an opportunity to lead discussions on education reform and talk about how we simply could not afford to lose a generation of children because we were afraid to act on an education reform itself. I still believe that, and now as governor, I chair the Education and Workforce Committee of that organization. This past year, I waged a fight in our legislature against some interests that opposed changing our approach to education in the state of Connecticut. Now, I have to tell you, just as the subject I will talk about in a few moments, the subject of education, everything I needed to know and learn about education I learned as a mayor. We have to make sure that we do everything in our power to educate our children effectively. I'm the governor of a state that has certain urban areas where only 60% of the children are actually receiving a high school diploma or a high school diploma that actually represents value. 60%. Now, listening to Mayor Fox and talking about what our future in the United States could be, we will not compete with other nations. And we, as the state of Connecticut, will not compete with other states if we are simply willing to throw away up to 40% of our children growing up in urban environments. And I don't want to hear that we can't do a better job. There is a certain reality that when you start to slice and dice this issue, you come to understand that in each of the states represented by mayors in this room, there are outstanding school districts, albeit with large achievement gaps, and there are low-performing school districts with even larger achievement gaps. But even in those low-performing districts, as we've classified 30 of our districts in the state of Connecticut out of 160, even in those 30 districts, educating 41% of the students in Connecticut, there are outstanding schools. But in education in the United States, we are far more likely to recommit ourselves to our mistakes and repeat behaviors year after year after year each September beginning than we are to replicate those successes that we see even in our systems where they're outperforming other schools. Now, we've got to be committed to turning this around in our nation. We cannot throw away a good portion of another generation of children as we raise them up, as we bring them into this world. And we can't compete if we continue to do it. We've taken a multi-pronged approach in the state of Connecticut. We had that big fight in the legislature, a fight I would not have won without the support of the mayors and first selectmen of those 30 low-performing districts. Because if you live in one of those cities or towns, you understand what's happening in your midst. But what we have to make sure as mayors is that everyone in our states, every governor, every commissioner of education, every board of education understands that we have an obligation to do better, whether it's extending the school day, which makes an awful lot of sense. In fact, Connecticut joined with the Ford Foundation and a number of other states represented in this room to extend the school day in a number of schools. I visited one of those schools. They added 90 minutes to the school day. Every child comes and has breakfast together. Every child has a physical activity together, and every child has an additional learning experience together before the regular school day starts. And what's amazing about that is that every child then starts their normal school day at around 9 a.m., already having an hour and a half under their belt, being ready to learn, being excited. We've seen attendance increase both by teachers and students by that kind of program. It can, in fact, be replicated and should be brought back to the states and municipalities that are represented in this room. We're holding people accountable. We're setting up a real evaluation system for our teachers, for our administrators. Ultimately, in some way, we have to do one for our parents as well as we seek to hold everyone responsible for the success of our children if we are to be successful as cities, states, and a nation. There are other great ideas out there, many of them existing somewhere in your state, even in your own municipality. Please, break the trend of replicating mistakes and start the trend of paying for replication of successes. hold people accountable as we're doing in our own state, where we're in the process of taking over 25 schools and turning them around just to prove that it can happen. This divide along racial lines, along home ownership lines, along other lines, you can slice and dice this thing a million different ways, but not one of those ways is an excuse to accept that which we have accepted in the past. So I come back to an organization which I deeply love, which I respect so much, my friend Tom Cochran, who I respect so much, with that particular message. Because we cannot lose our children. The other thing, obviously, I have to speak about with all of my friends is what transpired in the state of Connecticut on December 14th. Life-changing for all of us in so many ways. As a bystander and someone who had to respond, you know, the experiences I've had pale in substance and cause and reaction to that which struck 20 families of babies who lost their children, and the spouses and family members of those 6 adults, those adults who died protecting those children, a principal and a school psychologist who actually ran to the danger, a teacher's aide who actually attempted herself to shield a child with disabilities from being shot, and both of them were lost as well. Each of the adults was a hero, including a teacher who hid children in closets and responded when a demand was made to know where all the children were, that they were in the gymnasium, before she lost her life. We cannot afford to lose our children and our adults in that way either. But that's one incident. My good friend Michael Nutter, who's, I think, leading a tremendous effort to as a nation, examine this issue, will tell you himself that he's lost 331 of his students in the last year. And at least by the measure of a 57-year-old man, most of those were children as well. We have to, and Michael knows this and others in this room know this, and as I think the 5th mayor to join with Mayor Bloomberg so many years ago to try to hold the gun industry accountable for their actions, we have got to use this thing in Newtown, this experience, to make sure not only that we reignite for the moment our interest in doing something about this issue, but we do it for whatever period of time it takes for us to make real change. Now, I know you heard from the vice president. I was with the vice president yesterday, and he's a wonderful guy and has done an amazing amount of work. I have to share this with you. Tom, my sense of humor hasn't changed much. He talked about his 24-minute prepared text, and he talked about how it took him 55 minutes to give the speech. He gave me copies of both. He commented about how hard it was to give a 55-minute speech, to which I reminded him how hard it is to listen to one. But he's right on. There are things that make so much sense to the American people, simple things that we could do that would help me prevent another Newtown in Connecticut and would help Michael Nutter from losing more of his citizens in his state. There is no reason in a country where we don't allow anyone to get on an airplane without undergoing a background check to allow anyone to buy a gun without a background check. Actually, there is a reason. People make money. And in making that money, they believe they have an interest that is superior to the interest we have in our own children, in our own cities, in our own state. They believe that some amount of lost profit, because upwards of 500,000 people in the state of Pennsylvania might suddenly appear on a list that would prevent them from buying a firearm, that they have to do everything in their power to make sure that we're not able to transmit those names or that information to a federal data bank where everyone would understand that those 500,000 people should not be allowed to buy a gun in Pennsylvania or in any other state. The loss of 500,000 names, purchasers, potentially, is greater than the value, think about this, is greater than the value of your grandchildren. And that is wrong, and it has to be addressed. And we can't stop until that happens. And by the way, the American people get it now. They understand that this is not a fair trade-off. That 331 residents of Philadelphia, or 26 people in Newtown, or my good friend Governor Hickenlooper, another former member of this body, having 2 shootings in Aurora, or the mere fact that during Vice President Biden's work on this issue, there were additional 3 shootings in schools. That is not worth the price that we're extracting from American families. And they understand that closing a loophole in making sure that every gun purchase is the subject of a background check makes too much sense when it is too easy to do if we commit ourselves to doing it. This is what we have to do. We have to close those things. We have to get away with it. There's a certain reality about Philadelphia and about Washington and about New York and about Stamford and Norwalk and Bridgeport and New Haven and Hartford, that disproportionately the number of guns that are used in street crimes actually come from places that live by rules that we don't even live by, that won't do the things that our states are already doing. So straw purchasers take guns from Florida and take guns from Virginia and move them up I-95, the most trafficked road in our nation, and redistribute them in our streets. And yet, as a mayor, I couldn't do anything about it. And as a governor, I can't do anything about it. But as we, the American citizenry, understanding our obligations to our children, we can do something about it. And this is something that we cannot give up on. And then, of course, this issue of capacity. How many bullets should you be able to shoot in what limited period of time has got to be one that we also are developing great consensus on. If you look at the numbers and how they have changed since December 14th, Americans get it. They understand that whatever sport value there might be for someone at a range pertaining to these magazines, they simply make no sense when it comes to the amount of damage that they can inflict in a very short period of time. Not can inflict, do inflict on a regular basis in our cities, in our states, and now in our schools. This is something that we can't give up on. The idea that someone should be able to walk into a school with multiple 30-round magazines, one taped to another, so all he had to do was take it out, turn it around. He didn't have to fumble finding something in his pants. Makes no sense at all when you think about the amount of damage that they can inflict. Michael and I were talking just a few moments ago. There were actually fewer shootings in Philadelphia this past year than the year before. But the damage that was done was greater because more bullets were used and more headshots were made. So let us not give up on this either. This is a fight that the American people are willing to have if we provide the kind of leadership when we go back to our cities, our states, and our companies. There are other issues within this, and I want to touch on just a couple, and then I'll stop. Tom, don't get nervous. I won't take too much time. We need to do something about mental health in this country. We need to destigmatize mental health. There is a certain reality that so many of us at some point in our lives will experience something that needs to be treated in the mental health arena. And the vast, vast, vast majority of us will recover from whatever that was. Depression, anxiety, a willingness to drink too much or self-medicate. People who seek that treatment overwhelmingly recover from it. And yet we continue to stigmatize mental health treatment to an extent that people will avoid being treated so that they can't possibly be stigmatized. We do it in our military and have done it, and I know they've made changes in that, and they're trying to overcome it, but we do it in our military. We do it in many of our professions. We make it difficult for people to actually get the treatment when it would be most effective. And then, of course, we have this thing with our children that once they're 18, we can't intervene any longer. And we're going to have some discussions about what that all means, particularly when you think about the number of children who have that temporary mental health issue beginning at 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20, and intervention would make a difference there. But I want to use this need that we have to destigmatize. And, of course, incumbent in that is to add more access to mental health treatment. And, of course, in those cases where people are not going to overcome their situation, to make sure that they can't buy a gun. With what we actually have effectively done in another arena, and that is that we have effectively destigmatized violence. We do it every day. We do it in our movie theaters, and, listen, a movie goes on for 90 minutes or 2 hours and 25 minutes and has the appearance of fantasy, and you don't relive it, as one man in Connecticut did in the case of violent games, for hours and hours and hours upon end every day. But just think about if you're a child and you have one of these games in your house. By the way, on the day that Newtown happened, there were games available that actually allowed people to go into schools online, in a game and shoot them up. What are we doing when we're willing to destigmatize violence, when we're willing to bring it home, put it in your den or your living room, have it played on a 50-inch screen, and give extra points for where you hit the person with your semi-automatic and how many times you hit the person with your semi-automatic? Where's the social value in that? And even if there was some social value, and I'll argue that there is not, is it the kind of thing that we want to be involved in as a nation? Or should we at least have a discussion about who, what, where, how much, and making sure at the very least, that we study the impact? The NRA has made it effectively impossible for the federal government to compile and study the causes of gun violence, has refused to allow us to have a permanent head of the ATF. And the industry that produces these games is refusing to pay for a study on the long-term impacts of those. But I will tell you this, that if we spent as much time and energy on destigmatizing mental health treatment as we do in the proliferation of these games that are destigmatizing violence, we as a society would make leaps forward. So listen, you've heard from a whole bunch of people who have cared as I care and have cared for all of these years that I was mayor. Years in which we actually lowered crime by 60% in my hometown. But understanding that if we don't do the common sense things, if we don't band together, if we allow ourselves somehow to be defeated in this on a long-term basis, then it will be wrong. Final point. There are going to be more Newtowns. There are going to be more Auroras. There are going to be more people who walk into movie houses and shoot them up. Because we have failed to act in the past, and we will be slow to act now. So every time this happens in your community, or every time it happens in your state, you need to say that if we had acted at some moment before, it would have been done. It will be the volume of the repeats of these incidences that ultimately will allow us as a nation to do that which we already know and have known for a long period of time should have been done. Because of Newtown, I think we can make progress on the 3 basic points that I just laid out to you, and many others that were contained in the executive actions that the President has taken and that we will argue about, unfortunately not always in a reasonable way with people who actually want to make reasonable progress. But it's going to happen again. So we won't give up. We owe too much to those who've already given their lives. We owe too much for those dedicated teachers and administrators at Sandy Hook School. We owe too much to the parents of every child, whether lost on a street in Philadelphia or on a street in Stamford, Connecticut, or in one of these mass shootings that we could have otherwise prevented if we overcame those who would stop us from doing the common sense things. Don't give up. I'm not going to. God bless you.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership. It is so exhilarating to see that kind of leadership, especially from a mayor who moves on to a lesser office. Thank you. We'll now present one more Excellence in Public-Private Partnership Award in the Outstanding category. That award goes to Comcast and the City of Chicago for their Internet Essentials project. Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel and Comcast have partnered over the past year to promote Internet Essentials, a program aimed at closing the digital divide. Internet Essentials offers affordable Internet access, affordable hardware, and free digital literacy training to families with at least one student that is eligible for free or reduced lunch. Since the nationwide launch event, more than 7,000 Chicago families have joined the program, making Chicago the top city in the country for Internet Essentials participation, with more than 100,000 families. Comcast and Mayor Emanuel value the ongoing partnership that has made an impact in the lives of thousands of Chicagoans who now have broadband access in the home. Mayor Emanuel promised continued leadership and vowed that Chicago will remain the #1 city in the nation for Internet Essentials participation. I'd like to thank Mayor Emanuel for being here. You know, Chicago and Mesa are like twin cities because well, the Cubs have trained in Mesa for 50 years, and every February and March, I think half the city of Chicago transplants to Mesa, which is not a bad idea, by the way. You know, the exciting thing is of our 460,000 residents, I think half of them stayed from Chicago. They came and stayed. So we appreciate our connection with Chicago and all they're doing there. And accepting the award, our Mayor, Rahm Emanuel, and David Cohen, Executive Vice President of Comcast. I will also say another thing. I think that Mayor Emanuel will receive an award for the City of Chicago much sooner than the Cubs will ever win a World Series. Oh, yeah, I really went out on a limb to say that, didn't I? Like they said, every team can have a bad century, right? We love our Cubbies in Mesa. We love the Cubs in Mesa. What's with all the groans? I mean, I am now pleased to introduce Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard, who's here to tell us about his new initiative to phase out oil, gasoline, and diesel fuels from his city's vehicles. His plan is to operate his fleets on alternative fuels, such as natural gas, and switch some vehicles to electric power. This will be one of the most ambitious programs in the country, and he is partnering with leaders in the private sector to accomplish his goal. Mayor Ballard.
It's always difficult to speak right before the break. I'm glad you're all still with us here. Good morning, and thanks for obliging me today with something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is national energy security. As a 23-year active duty Marine and a veteran of the Gulf War, I've always been concerned about our national dependence on foreign oil and how it compromises our national security. And I've studied this issue for years, and I'm a pragmatic man. I believe the time to act is now. And cities can save money while leading the way for the rest of the nation. History will not look kindly on us when reflecting back on the past 40 years as the U.S. and its Western allies participated in the greatest voluntary transfer of wealth in world history. Ever since the OPEC oil embargoes of the 1970s demonstrated that foreign countries could virtually cripple our domestic transportation energy supply, the U.S. and its allies have faced a growing problem. Our transportation sector and our quality of life depend on foreign oil, and that makes us vulnerable. But now, technology allows us to change that dynamic. And better yet, our cities can save money while moving away from dependence on foreign oil. As that Marine veteran, I know the human toll that it takes on our servicemen and women and their families. The tragedy of war, the separation of those families. And make no mistake, that is what is driving me. This is who I'm doing this for. Being held hostage to foreign oil also means we have less strategic leverage when facing those who would be hostile to our national security interests. And it also creates an incredible financial burden. The Gulf War in the 90s, in direct costs alone, cost $61 billion. We spend $85 billion annually to protect a worldwide oil infrastructure that allows us to send money to people who would do us harm. Though not directly related to oil, but certainly to Middle East stability, the war on terror has cost over $1 trillion. There are university studies out there that say there will be another $1 trillion in soft costs related to it. Some 79% of the world's oil supply is controlled by nations, not companies, not the free market. And many of those countries do not have our best interests at heart. Many people believe we are funding both sides on the war on terror, and I agree with that concept. But we can break out of this situation, and we can do it now. The technology is now here. It is not like it was just 3 or 4 years ago. I do not want to go into all the usage data, but suffice it to say that just a shift in the light transportation sector, sedans, light trucks, SUVs, will significantly move the needle. Electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids are here, and they are competitively priced. They are solid, reliable cars, much better than just 3 to 4 years ago. Electricity is inexpensive, the price is stable, and not subject to wild price swings based on world events. And furthermore, most electricity is controlled by domestic regulated entities. CNG, or compressed natural gas, is already being used in fire trucks and dump trucks and other heavy vehicles, and there is plenty of CNG in this country. And for that matter, liquefied natural gas is also a good option. So the time is now. In Indianapolis, in December, I signed an executive order to move Indianapolis to post-oil technology by 2025. I believe we're the first city in the nation to do that, and we will have significant savings because of it. And certainly no one knows better than mayors the budget pressures that we are under. Here's the plan. First point, for non-responding police cars, Indianapolis will only buy electric vehicles or plug-in hybrids, and we expect to save $12,000 per car per life cycle. Second, we will replace the entire heavy vehicle fleet of trucks and fire trucks with compressed natural gas. And third, we will partner with the auto manufacturers to develop a real police car that gets at least 40 to 50 miles a gallon or can be a plug-in hybrid car, vice the 8 to 10 miles a gallon that I and you probably get. That would save me at least $6 million a year. I just came from the North American Auto Show in Detroit, and I started talks with auto executives with those companies. I've talked to DOE, I've talked to DOT here, and I'm telling you, we can do this now. We're doing this in Indianapolis, and even though we may be the first in the nation to do this, it's my goal to bring along the cities, states, businesses, federal agencies. I want everybody to get on board to help us eliminate America's dependence on foreign oil. We need you along for the ride. The best changes in our country always start local. We know that better than anybody else, and we can make this happen. The Indianapolis plan is on your table. and along with the contact information. We look forward to working with all of you to break our dependence on foreign oil, to stop sending money to people who want to do us harm, and to keep our troops home. The Vietnam veterans revere their legacy that no service person will ever return to the United States to the shameful reception that they received. I want the legacy of the Gulf War veterans and the War on Terror veterans to be that no service person will ever set foot on a foreign battlefield due to our dependence on foreign oil. Thank you for coming this morning. I appreciate it very much.
I know it sounds very cliche, but I've been really inspired this morning. Governor Malloy, thank you so very much. You know, I got to say, Mayor Ballard, you know, we were talking about this last night, and this is what's great about this conference. Not many places you'd see a Republican mayor stand up and give it a very cognizant, impassioned plea to move move away from gas and oil with a very great argument. That's what mayors do. We find solutions. We find reasonable solutions that don't follow ideologies. They follow what's right, the right thing to do. We can only do it through our partnership with business, through the innovation that comes through the members in this room working together. Thank you for your efforts, and I'm excited to now go back and drive my staff crazy because of the 14 great ideas I got out of this conference, which will now keep them scrambling for the next, until we get back again. Yeah, Mayor McGinn's sitting there going, he's already texting, tweeting, whatever, and his staff's going crazy back in Seattle also. Thanks to all of you, and for the next 6 months until we get together in Las Vegas for another get-together. We appreciate your involvement, and let's keep changing the world. Thank you.